Summer was winding down, and the morning sunlight filtered through the trees, casting shimmering streaks across the streets of New York, streaks I could never seem to tire of. I, Emily, 26, stepped out of my small apartment in the heart of the city, a flutter of excitement and nerves twisting in my stomach. Today was the wedding of my best friends, a couple who, like Alex, my boyfriend of 3 years, and I, felt like family. They weren't just friends. They were the ones who had brought Alex and me together in the first place. Thinking about that made me smile to myself, a warm sense of gratitude filling me up. Alex was standing outside, a takeaway coffee in hand, wearing a pale blue shirt. His hair was a little tousled, but it only made him look more approachable, more natural. He caught my eye and gave me that half smile, mischievous but warm. "Ready?" he asked, his voice teasing and affectionate at the same time. I nodded, my heart giving a little squeeze at the thought of 3 years together, the minor arguments, the long late-night talks, the spontaneous trips we had taken. We got into the car, and the familiar strains of "Story of My Life" filled the space. We had screamed the lyrics together in the car before, laughing like no one else existed. Alex held my hand, smiling, but I caught him glancing at his watch every now and then, that familiar spark in his eyes that told me he was plotting something. Unexpected little surprise I had no idea about. On the way to the wedding, our chatter was easy, casual, but deep down, I felt a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. We'd talked about the future, about marriage, even picked out rings together. But I never imagined he'd want to propose in front of a crowd, right in the middle of a wedding. I laughed quietly to myself. He's probably just joking. When we arrived, the venue buzzed with life-twinkling lights, lively music, the hum of laughter, and the fresh scent of flowers filling the air. I saw our friends, the couple, standing hand in hand, glowing with happiness. My chest tightened in a mix of joy and apprehension. Joy for their love, apprehension for whatever scheme Alex might be brewing. During a lull between photos and greetings, Alex tugged me toward a corner of the garden where small tables with fresh flowers and candles created an intimate nook. He held my hand, giving me a mischievous wink. "I have an idea, but don't worry, I'm just messing around." I laughed, a little tense, reminding myself that whatever he did wouldn't ruin this day for our friends. Back inside, the crowd sipped cocktails, laughter floating through the air. I felt curious glances following us as we passed. Alex leaned close, whispering, "We'll look normal to everyone else, but there will be our moment." I smiled, though my heart thumped with anticipation. The main ceremony began, and we sat at a table near the stage. Soft music, warm light, and the subtle fragrance of flowers made it feel like we were in a romantic movie. I squeezed Alex's hand, sneaking glances at the stage, where our friends exchanged rings, smiles, and promises. I realized that love was all around, not just theirs, but ours too, taking shape in different forms. During the break, Alex's brow furrowed, scanning the room, then lighting up with a mischievous grin. I knew something was coming. I tightened my hand around his, sending a silent "not now" message, but he shrugged, eyes sparkling with anticipation, a mix of excitement and nerves. People began moving toward their seats for dinner, and my heart raced. I could feel the moment approaching, the one Alex had been waiting for. I braced myself, a mix of exhilaration and anxious suspense, like standing at the edge of a wave, unsure how it would crash over me. And then it happened. The lights shifted, music changed, and the room seemed to hold its breath. I felt Alex inhale, deeply, rise from his chair, and step confidently into the center of the reception hall. After standing by the banquet table, I could feel my heart beating faster than usual. A mix of excitement and anxiety coursed through me. Alex was beside me, his eyes sparkling with mischief, but there was a hint of nervousness I had never seen before. I knew he was planning something, and instinctively, I braced myself. We sat at our table, soft light falling over fresh flower arrangements, and hands pouring wine. People began chatting, laughing, celebrating, but I could barely see anyone except Alex in the crowd. I thought back to 3 years together. Long nights of conversation, small arguments followed by making up, weekend trips, and the countless times he had made me laugh until my stomach hurt. Weeks ago, Alex had joked to our best friends, "I'll propose at your wedding, it'll be fun." I had laughed it off as a joke, but now, standing in the middle of the reception, seeing that gleam in his eyes, I realized the joke might be about to become real. I tried to focus on the moment, reminding myself that this was our friend's happy day. I didn't want to ruin anything. Yet, with every passing second, my anticipation grew. I gently squeezed Alex's hand, silently sending the message, "Wait for the right moment, not now." The speeches began. Laughter, congratulations, and funny stories about the couple filled the room. Warmth and happiness surrounded me, but I couldn't take my eyes off Alex. I saw him smile, take a deep breath, and glance around the room, searching for the perfect moment. My chest tightened. I realized he had made a decision, and I had to be ready to react. Then the music started. The DJ played "Story of My Life," our favorite song. A wave of nostalgia washed over me. This was the song we used to belt out in the car, singing at the top of our lungs, laughing like no one was watching. I smiled at Alex, hoping he just wanted to dance or sing along, but his eyes were fixed on the DJ booth, lips pressed together, his body tense. Suddenly, Alex stood up. My heart skipped a beat. He grabbed a fork and tapped it against his glass, the sharp clink stopping everyone in the room. Everything seemed to slow down. Reflections on the glass, frozen smiles, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "No, not now," I whispered, my voice shaking. I hoped he would understand and stop. But Alex's gaze remained in the center of the room, as if seeking approval from someone else. He took a deep breath and said, I'm sorry, I was just joking." A sharp ache pierced my chest. Not because he had dared to act, but because the moment was public, complex, and overwhelming. I forced myself to stay calm. Let them have their moment. Let's have our own moment later. But Alex didn't look at me. He sat down, lips pressed tight, his expression a mixture of frustration and tension. The distance between us, subtle before, suddenly felt tangible. Not a lack of love, but a gap in timing and shared understanding. When the food was served, Alex stood and walked straight out without a word. I ran after him, trying to catch up, but he was nowhere to be found. Calls and texts went unanswered. I returned to the table, feeling hollow and bewildered. My heart ached as I tried to enjoy the rest of the party, but every smile felt forced. Every conversation trapped. Over an hour later, Alex returned. He sat down, still avoiding my gaze. The air felt heavy, my heart pounding painfully. I braced myself for a fight, but he simply said, "I don't want to talk about it right now." The ride home was silent. I stared out the window, listening to the faint hum of streetlights and the wind, but in my mind, the clinking glass, Alex's eyes, and the feeling of public rejection replayed. Once home, Alex sent a long message explaining the struggle of finding the ring, the feeling of being rejected, and the embarrassment he felt in front of everyone. I read every word, my heart tightening. I wanted to explain that I hadn't rejected his lovingly respected the moment for others. Yet the emotional gap remained. That night, I sat on the sofa, phone in hand, staring out the window. The streetlights glimmered softly, but their light seemed dim compared to what I felt inside. I remembered Alex standing there, tapping the glass, full of excitement and disappointment, and realized that love, no matter how strong, could still be tested by moments of tension and misaligned timing. Deep down, I understood this wasn't a failure. It was a lesson. Love isn't just feeling. It's harmony, patience, and understanding each other in moments of stress. Alex's attempted proposal, though incomplete, left an indelible mark, a reminder of how two people in love navigate subtle, yet powerful challenges. The night ended in silence. But this silence wasn't entirely heavy. It was a pause, a settling, a preparation for the next steps, for conversations to come, and for the opportunity to understand and reconcile. Dinner had begun at the wedding reception. The room was alive with chatter and laughter, warm lights casting a golden glow over elegantly set tables. It was a perfect picture of joy. But for Mimily, the moment felt tense, full of foreboding. I watched Alex, standing near the DJ booth, his eyes fixed on me, a half smile mixing excitement and anticipation. I knew he was about to do something special, but I hadn't prepared for the potential fallout. The DJ finished a soft song and switched to Story of My Life, our favorite song, the one we used to belt out in the car, laughing like maniacs. My heart started racing. This song was full of memories, but now, in front of our friends, the moment felt complicated, heavy with expectation. Suddenly, Alex grabbed a metal fork and struck it against his crystal glass. The sharp clink echoed through the hall, drawing every gaze toward him. My body tensed, and I shot to my feet, heart in my throat. Not. Now isn't the time, I whispered, trying to keep calm, though my voice trembled. Alex glanced around as if he hadn't heard me. He took a deep breath, straightened up, lips parting, but what he said was drowned in the murmur of the crowd. I realized the moment I had dreaded was happening, and I had to face it now. I moved toward him, gripping his hand, trying to pull him back. Let them have their moment. We'll have ours later. But Alex didn't look at me. He seemed swept up in his own emotions, a mixture of exhilaration and vulnerability shining in his eyes. My chest tightened. I knew he felt this was his one chance to express his love. Yet I could see the embarrassment etched on his face, pride and anxiety intertwined. Time seemed to slow around us. Lights reflected off glasses, smiles froze mid-laugh, children's giggles sounded distant. I tried to speak, but Alex stepped back, eyes glistening with the weight of disappointment. I'm sorry, I was just joking," he shouted, voice shaky, unable to mask the hurt he felt. Part of me wanted to explain immediately that I hadn't rejected him, only respected the moment for our friends, but I realized words wouldn't erase the raw vulnerability hanging between us. Alex sat down, head bowed, frustration etched on his face. I watched him, heart aching. Around us, the celebration continued, but we were trapped in silence and tension. The space between us heavier than ever. When dinner was served, Alex stood and walked straight out without a word. I ran after him, but he was gone. Calls and texts went unanswered. Returning to the table, I felt hollow and confused. Every smile I forced felt strained. Every conversation seemed stuck in the weight of what had just happened. Over an hour later, Alex returned. He sat down, still avoiding my eyes. Silence enveloped us. I was afraid to speak, fearing an argument. Yet my heart pounded with memories of 3 years together, the laughter, the fights, the tender moments. The ride home was quiet. Only the hum of the car and the wind outside broke the stillness. I tried to calm myself, but in my mind I could still hear the clink of the glass. See Alex's disappointed gaze, feel the emptiness of that public moment. I knew the moment he had wanted to make special had become a serious test of our relationship. Once home, Alex sent a long message explaining the struggle of finding the ring, the feeling of rejection, and the embarrassment he'd felt in front of everyone. I read every word, my chest tightening. I wanted to explain that I hadn't rejected his love, only respected the moment for others. Yet the emotional gap remained heavy and palpable. That night, I sat on the sofa, hugging a pillow, staring out at the city lights. The street lamps glimmered softly, yet their glow seemed dim compared to what I felt inside. I remembered Alex, tapping the glass, excitement and disappointment mixed in his eyes, and realized that love, no matter how strong, could still be tested by unexpected, misunderstood moments. Deep down, I understood this wasn't a failure. It was a lesson. Love isn't just about feeling. It's about harmony, patience, and understanding each other in moments of stress. Alex's attempted proposal, though imperfect, left an indelible mark, a reminder that love sometimes requires navigating subtle but powerful challenges. The night ended in silence, but this silence wasn't entirely heavy. It was a pause, a settling, a moment to prepare for the next steps, for conversations to come, and for the opportunity to reconnect and understand one another. The next morning, soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, but it couldn't lift the heaviness lingering in my chest. I sat on the sofa, cradling a cup of coffee that was still warm, staring out at the city below. New York was buzzing as usual, but inside me, everything felt slowed down. My heart still ached, thinking about last night. Alex standing in front of everyone, clinking his glass, then lowering his head in disappointment. Alex didn't say a word. He just sat quietly beside me. I turned to look at him and saw the sadness in his eyes, the thoughtful expression on his face, a portrait of disappointment and loneliness within love itself. The distance between us became clear, not in our feelings, but in how we understood each other in that crucial moment. I sighed and tried to find the words. Alex, I want to talk, not argue, just understand each other better. He stayed, silent, avoiding my gaze. A minute passed. 2 minutes. Finally, he nodded. We sat across from each other, holding hands, careful not to squeeze too hard. I started, yesterday. I reacted too quickly. I wasn't rejecting you. I just wanted to respect the moment with our friends. We can have our own moment, without interrupting their joy. Alex looked down at the table, his voice trembling. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but I felt rejected in front of everyone. I wanted that moment to be perfect, and I thought, if you truly wanted to marry me, you would have let me do it. I closed my eyes, feeling both pain and understanding. Darling, we've talked about the future, about rings, about marriage. I love you. I want to marry you. And I know you feel the same. But the moment doesn't need to be public or surprising, or witnessed by others. It's important because it belongs to us. I want us to remember it as our private moment, just the two of us. Alex stayed silent for a while, then his eyes softened. 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then he smiled, warm but a little embarrassed. Maybe I rushed things. I just wanted you to see how much I love you. I pulled him closer, placing my hand on his cheek. I know, and I love you just as much, but sometimes we need to learn patience, to let things happen at the right time and in the right place. We embraced the first time since the wedding night, in a silence filled with love. No words were needed, just warmth, breathing, and the sense of being cherished. I realized that love isn't always perfect right away, but if two people are patient and understanding, imperfect moments can become the foundation for a lasting relationship. That day, we cooked together, cleaned up, and talked about small plans for the future, a weekend getaway, movies we wanted to watch, even deciding on the location for our own private wedding. Everything was ordinary, but filled with understanding and closeness. I realized that sometimes ordinary moments are more enduring than dazzling public ones. By evening, we were on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker below. I felt Alex's hand rest over mine, and I understood something important. Love isn't just about grand romantic gestures, it's about quiet moments, when both of you simply breathe, listen, and walk together. Promise me, you won't rush again, okay? I asked, a soft smile on my lips. He smiled, slightly embarrassed. I promise. But I also promise I'll do everything I can to make our moment as special as it can be at the right time, in the right place. We held hands, our eyes meeting, and in that moment, I knew our love wasn't perfect, but it was real, full of emotion, challenges, and the potential to grow together. Distances, misunderstandings, anger, and disappointment all became part of our journey of love that night. As the city slowly drifted to sleep, we sat side by side, hands intertwined, without speaking. That quiet, simple moment opened a new chapter in our relationship, one where we would create special, private, and authentic memories together. I understood that marriage still lay ahead. There would be many decisions to make, emotional highs to experience, and unforeseen challenges to face. But this time, we had learned to confront them together with patience, understanding, and deep love. And that, I realized, was what made love enduring, not just in dazzling moments, but in ordinary and testing ones. Even after that evening of calm, challenges didn't disappear. Life tested us in the mundane, in the small moments that seemed trivial but carried weight. Work deadlines, stress, fatigue, and miscommunications crept in, reminding us that patience and understanding were ongoing lessons. Arguments over little things, chores, schedules, misunderstandings sometimes escalated, and moments of emotional distance crept back in. But each small resolution, each shared laugh after tension, each silent embrace after a difficult day, became a brick in the foundation of our love. We learned that love wasn't about avoiding conflict, it was about navigating it together. It wasn't about perfection, it was about showing up over and over again, even when life got messy. Every quiet moment, every gesture of care, every conversation where we truly listened to each other became proof that we were building something lasting. By the end of the week, there was a subtle but undeniable shift. Minor victories, dinner without arguing, sharing laughter after a stressful day, sitting together in silence without feeling distant, felt like triumphs. The challenges hadn't vanished, but facing them together made us stronger, more connected, and more aware of how fragile and precious our love truly was. And that, I realized, was the essence of commitment. Not perfection, not constant romance, but the courage to face difficulties hand in hand, to respect each other's struggles, and to embrace both the calm and the storm. That quiet, persistent understanding was more meaningful than any public declaration or fleeting perfect moment could ever be. I closed my eyes, feeling Alex's warmth beside me. Things weren't perfect yet, but with patience, understanding, and sincere love, we would learn to love fully without rushing, without regrets, and above all, happily. The next day, the city was still buzzing with its usual hectic pace. But in our small apartment, there was a strange, peaceful calm. Emily and Alex had spent a long night lost in our thoughts, quiet but full of emotion. No words were needed. We both understood that we needed a private moment to heal and reconnect. Emily was making coffee, the morning light streaming through the curtains, casting warm golden streaks across the kitchen table. I watched her, noticing every gesture, the way she held the mug, the slight furrow of her brow as she lifted the coffee lid, and the soft sigh she let out. Everything made my heart ache, a mix of regret and love. Yikes. I wish last night hadn't happened, I finally said, my voice low and earnest. Emily turned toward me, her eyes gentle, though still carrying a hint of caution. You don't have to worry, Alex. We were both emotional. The important thing is that we still love each other and want to move forward together. We sat down, together at the table, looking out over the gradually awakening city. I took Emily's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin, and realized that love isn't just about words or grand romantic gestures. It's about quiet moments when both of you feel, share, and understand each other. I think we should create our own moment, a moment that's truly just the two of us, I said, my voice trembling but determined. Emily smiled, her eyes brightening, and nodded. Yes, we don't need to compare ourselves or intrude on anyone else's moment. Let everything happen our way. We decided to spend the afternoon walking around the city, revisiting familiar spots we had explored together before. Every step brought back memories. The little cafe where we once spent hours talking, the street where we first held hands. Each place reminded us of our journey, the challenges we had faced, and the joys we had shared. Alex led Emily to a small park where a wooden bench sat under the shade of a large tree. We sat down, sunlight filtering through the leaves, and felt a peacefulness neither of us had experienced before. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small boxed ring I had prepared. Emily looked at me, surprised but tender. I didn't rush, didn't pressure her, just spoke from the heart. Emily, we've been through so much together, the ups and the downs. I want this moment, our private moment, to be when I officially ask, will you marry me? Emily lowered her head, covering her face with her hands, her voice trembling. Alex, I do. We laughed and embraced, feeling as if the whole world had melted away, leaving only the two of us in this intimate, beautiful moment. No bright lights, no applause, just warmth, racing hearts, and the sense of completeness we had both been longing for. That evening, we returned home, hand in hand, and prepared a simple dinner together. The ordinary yet profound feeling filled every corner of the apartment. We talked about the future, the wedding venue, the honeymoon, and long-term plans. Everything was wrapped in sincerity, understanding, and mutual respect. Before going to bed, Emily and I sat on the balcony, looking at the city sparkling under golden lights. We were silent, but the quiet was no longer heavy. It was filled with love and understanding. I placed my hand over hers and whispered, "I know love isn't always perfect, but I promise I'll always be patient, listen, and love you deeply." Emily smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "I know, and I feel the same. We've learned to get through our first challenge. Now we'll create truly private and memorable moments together." In that moment, I realized that true love isn't just about grand gestures or big promises. It's about patience, connection, and the ability to learn from each other in every single moment, whether ordinary or unexpected. Distance, misunderstandings, disappointment, they all become part of the journey, making love deeper and more enduring. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft glow on Emily's face. I stood there, watching her, a sweet, peaceful warmth spreading through my chest. After all the tension, misunderstandings, and awkward moments from the night before, the atmosphere between us had completely shifted. Quiet, but full of connection, each breath in sync. Emily turned toward me, a gentle, sincere smile on her lips. "Alex, are we okay now?" The question sounded simple, but it carried so many layers of emotion. I took her hand, squeezing lightly, my eyes bright. "I'm okay, we're both okay, and more importantly, I feel like our love is stronger than ever." We shared breakfast together, talking about everyday details, work schedules, errands for the week, small plans, but beneath it all, we were building something more important: trust and mutual understanding. Every word, glance, and smile became a brick in the foundation of our relationship. After breakfast, Emily suggested a walk through the park nearby. The city was busy, filled with the sounds of traffic and children laughing, but for us, everything seemed to slow down. Each step was a chance to observe, talk, and listen to one another, to understand each other better. "I think we need to make clear plans for the future," Emily said, her eyes thoughtful, sunlight glinting off her hair, giving her an almost cinematic glow. I nodded, feeling the seriousness in her tone. "You're right. We've made small decisions before, but now it's time to talk about the bigger things: marriage, where we want to live, and the values we want to share together." We sat on a park bench, holding hands, and began mapping out concrete plans. From choosing a wedding date and guest list to preparing a budget, every detail was carefully discussed. But it wasn't just about logistics. We also shared our dreams, fears, and feelings we hadn't spoken aloud before. Emily looked at me, her eyes full of sincerity. "Alex, I want us to marry not just because we love each other, but because we understand and respect each other, and we're ready to face challenges together." I smiled and nodded. "Me too. I know love isn't always perfect, but if we stay patient and understanding, every moment will feel complete." We shared our visions for the future, trips we wanted to take, career projects, and even simple but precious moments: morning coffees together, evening walks through the streets, sitting in silence and still feeling each other's warmth. In the afternoon, Emily took me to a small cafe, the place of our first date. The cozy atmosphere, the aroma of coffee, the soft music playing in the background, it was the perfect setting for deep conversation and connection. We held hands across the table, exchanging meaningful glances. I realized that trust and understanding had become a stronger foundation than any promise could ever be. "Alex, I know we can't avoid misunderstandings or challenges all the time, Emily said softly, but I believe that if we learn to be patient and truly listen to each other, we can get through anything. I looked at her, feeling every word sink deeply into my heart. I believe that too, and I promise I'll always do my best to create truly memorable moments for us. That evening, as the city lights came on, we returned home and sat on the balcony, looking down at the golden twinkle of the streets below. The space was quiet, filled only with the soft breeze and the rhythm of our breathing. I placed my hand over hers, feeling the warmth and the calm. This moment, silent but full of love, reminded us that love isn't only built on big events. It grows in ordinary moments, in harmony and in trust. We ended the day with an unspoken agreement to always communicate, listen, and be patient with each other, no matter what challenges arise. This ordinary, quiet moment wasn't flashy, but to us, it was more important than any grand celebration. It was the foundation for lasting love, where every challenge could be overcome through understanding and connection. Inside me, Alex, I felt a sense of completeness and peace like never before. I realized that true love isn't always easy, but if two people are patient, understanding, and devoted, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow closer. Emily looked at me, smiling, and I knew we were ready to step into the next chapter of life together, not just marriage, but a long journey of trust, partnership, and mutual support. The next month moved in a blur of excitement and endless to-do lists. Emily and Alex had set the wedding date, chosen the venue, and started working through all the little details. On the surface, everything looked smooth, but underneath, the pressure from family, friends, and work began to test the bond we had just rebuilt. Emily's family was both loving and exacting. Her mother, warm yet demanding, constantly reminded her about traditions, etiquette, and the need for perfection. Emily, remember, a wedding is once in a lifetime. Everything has to be right, she said in her usual firm but caring tone. Emily would smile politely, but I noticed the flicker of worry in her eyes. I squeezed her hand, whispering, "We'll take it one step at a time, we've got this." Work only added more strain. Emily had a major client presentation coming up, and I was trying to close an important deal. Our evenings, once filled with cooking together or walking through the city, turned into long hours of laptop screens and quick text check-ins. It wasn't distance we wanted, it was just life piling on. One night, a message from an old friend stirred up an old memory for Emily, that awkward moment months ago when I had tried to propose by clinking a glass in public. The reminder made her retreat into silence. I caught the shadow across her face and asked gently, "You okay?" She let out a shaky breath. "I just worry. What if our private moments keep getting interrupted? What if we lose the time we need for just us?" I held her hand tightly, steadying her. "I feel the same. But we've been through this before, and we'll do it again. No matter the pressure, our moments are ours. Nobody can take that away." As the wedding approached, we worked through lists, guests, menus, seating charts, outfits. Each step carried tiny battles between tradition, personal preference, and family expectations. But instead of letting the conflicts drive us apart, we learned to compromise, to laugh at the absurdities, and to defend the choices that truly mattered to us. One afternoon, Emily stood in a bridal shop wearing her gown. She spun around, eyes shining, asking, "What do you think?" The words caught in my throat. "Emily, you're breathtaking." It's not just the dress, it's you, your smile, your spirit. That's what makes this real. We picked out wedding bands together, an unexpectedly intense process of comparing metals, designs, and sizes. What could have turned into arguments became moments of teasing, playful negotiations, and genuine collaboration. It hit me then. Love isn't only about grand gestures, it's about partnership in the small, ordinary decisions too. Meanwhile, my own job deadlines loomed large. There were nights I felt torn between spreadsheets and seating charts. I remembered her mother's warning about perfection and felt the weight settle in. But when I looked at Emily, I realized the truth. Perfection didn't matter. What mattered was showing up for her, for us, even if everything else stayed messy. One evening, sitting together on our balcony, the city lights flickering below, Emily rested her hand on mine. "Alex," she whispered, "I know there will be more challenges ahead. But if we keep choosing each other the way we do now, nothing can shake us." I kissed her hand softly. Exactly. Family, work, outside, noisittle, all come and go, but us. That's the part that lasts. That night, we made Listnall just for the honeymoon, but for the kind of life we wanted to build. Quiet mornings, with coffee, spontaneous weekend trips, evenings on the couch, no words needed. Our dreams weren't extravagant. They were simple, steady, and deeply ours. As the wedding day drew closer, the pressure faded into a new kind of calm. We knew it wouldn't be perfect, but we also knew that perfection was never the goal. What mattered was that we were ready to walk into marriage with open hearts, resilience, and trust. We ended that chapter of preparation with a long embrace. No speeches, no dramatic promises, just two people holding on, smiling into each other's eyes, and silently agreeing. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The morning sun spilled across New York, making the city glow with that golden warmth you only notice on days that feel bigger than life. But inside the small church we had chosen, the light felt softer, gentler, casting a quiet glow over flowers, lining the aisle, candles flickering on tables, and the expectant faces of family and friends. Emily stood in front of the mirror in her white gown, her hair swept back in a simple bun, her eyes shining with a happiness I had never seen so vividly before. I, Alex, stood only a few steps away, heart racing, every breath slower than the last, as if time itself was stretching out just for us. The setting was perfect: fresh flowers, soft piano music, and the warmth of candlelight. But none of that mattered as much as this moment, ours, not shaped by pressure from family, not overshadowed by past misunderstandings, not dictated by anyone else's expectations. This was our moment, when Emily began her walk down the aisle, her steps graceful, but her eyes locked on mine, the rest of the world blurred. The guests, the music, the decorations, all of it faded into the background. All I could feel was her hand sliding into mine when she reached me, warm and steady, her heartbeat syncing with mine. The officiant's words floated through the room, but I barely heard them. My entire focus was on Emily, her smile, her breath, the way her eyes softened when she looked at me. And then came the question: do you take this person to be your lawfully wedded spouse, to love and cherish for the rest of your life? I do, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Emily's smile broke into pure radiance. I do, that was it. 2 words each, but filled with everything we had gone through together: missteps, lessons, forgiveness, and unwavering love. The vows weren't just tradition. They were a promise carved out of real trials and real triumphs. After the ceremony, music rose and guests cheered. We walked into the reception, where laughter, champagne, and clinking glasses filled the air. Yet, even surrounded by it all, I only had eyes for Emily. When we shared our first dance, it felt like time paused again. Her hand in mine, her head against my chest, the cheers and applause fading into background noise. Emily whispered, her voice trembling with joy, "I never thought I could feel this happy." I held her tighter. Me neither. But right now, this moment, it's ours, and it's perfect. Later that evening, we slipped out onto the balcony. The city stretched out beneath us, glittering under the night sky. I slipped the wedding band onto Emily's finger once more, pressing it gently into place, repeating my promise. I'll love you patiently and fully, no matter what challenges come. Her eyes glistened as she whispered back, and I'll be with you through everything, building a life that's ours, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary. Inside, the celebration continued: laughter, dancing, endless toasts, but out there, under the glow of the city lights, silence wrapped around us like a second vow. It wasn't heavy silence, but the kind that felt whole, filled with peace and love. When the night ended and we stepped into the city streets hand in hand, the quiet hum of New York surrounded us. The street lights glowed gold, the air carried a soft breeze, and everything felt still. We paused, holding each other close, knowing this was the beginning of something even bigger. Looking back, I realized every challenge, every misunderstanding, every pressure from family, every doubt had been a stone laid in the foundation of what we had just built. Those struggles didn't weaken us. They prepared us, and now Emily and I were ready for the next chapter, marriage. A journey that wouldn't always be easy, but one we would face together with love, trust, and the quiet certainty that whatever came next, we already had what mattered most. The first few weeks after our wedding felt like a mix of newness and pure joy. Emily and Alex kept our small routines, morning coffee together, talking about the day ahead, sharing little feelings and simple moments. We quickly learned that marriage isn't just about a wedding day. It's a long journey that needs patience and understanding. But reality soon brought new challenges. Work got busier for both of us. Emily took on a major project that sent her traveling often, while I was managing a big client contract. That's when the distance crept in. Short texts and rushed calls didn't always feel like enough. One evening, Emily called from her hotel after a long meeting. Her voice was tired. "Hey, I just needed to hear you." I smiled, even though I felt the same emptiness. "I know, I wish you were here too. Just rest, love. We'll be together soon." That little exchange reminded us sometimes love in marriage is about patience, about simple acts that keep the connection alive. When Emily came home that weekend, we promised to give each other our full attention. No phones, no work, just us. We walked in the park, went back to our favorite cafe, cooked dinner together. Every smile, every touch reminded us why we chose each other, and why every challenge before this had been worth it. Still, not every moment was smooth. One night after work, I was drained and a little snappy. "Are you okay?" Emily asked gently. I sighed, my voice edged with frustration. "I'm just tired." Her eyes were soft but serious. "You don't have to hide it. Talk to me." That moment hit me. Honesty is the backbone of marriage. Small misunderstandings, left unsaid, can pile up. So we made little rules. at least one evening each week, just for us cooking, walking, or watching a movie. Marriage, we realized, isn't only about feelings. It's about habits, balance, and steady care. Another night, we rearranged our new apartment. We laughed while moving furniture, debated over colors, and ended up finding solutions together. Those small, ordinary moments turned out to be the glue holding us close, teaching us that marriage is teamwork, not just wedding vows. The real test came when Emily had a week-long conference while I flew abroad for business. The distance felt heavier than ever, but instead of letting it pull us apart, we leaned on technology, video calls, texts, sharing small parts of our day. It wasn't the same as being side by side, but it kept us tethered, and in the quiet moments cooking dinner together, sitting on the balcony overlooking the city, we shared what was real: worries, stress, laughter, silly stories, happiness. I realized doesn't always sparkle. Often it lives in the ordinary, in the comfort of being understood. One evening, I admitted, these first weeks are exhausting at times, but I'm grateful we're still side by side. Emily rested her hand on mine, her eyes warm. Me too. We've been through a lot already, and I know if we keep being honest and in sync, we'll get through anything. Distance, work, outside, pressures, all of it became part of our marriage, shaping us to value patience, understanding, and steady love. We learned to treasure the little things: breakfast together, long walks, quiet nights without words. By the weekend, we even started a marriage journal, a place to write down memories, feelings, and dreams for the future. It wasn't just about preserving moments. It reminded us that marriage is a long journey where every day matters, and every experience deepens our bond. We both know more challenges lie ahead: work deadlines, family expectations, daily pressures. But Emily and I understand now, love isn't tested by big, dramatic moments. It's built in the everyday, with patience, honesty, and care. And in those quiet, ordinary moments, we've found something: lasting peace, happiness, and the confidence that no matter what the future holds, we'll keep walking forward together. The first light of dawn slipped through the curtains, spilling across the floorboards of our New York apartment. The city outside was still half asleep, but inside, life felt unshakably alive. Emily sat in the armchair by the window, cradling her mug of coffee. Her hair was loose, a few strands catching the light, and her gaze was soft, somewhere far beyond the glass. I leaned against the doorway, not saying a word at first. There was something sacred about mornings like this, something I didn't want to interrupt. After everything, the nerves at our friend's wedding, the chaos of planning our own, the sharp edges of our first weeks as newlyweds, was this quiet moment that felt like the real prize. "Morning," I finally whispered, stepping closer. She looked over, and her lips curved into that smile that still disarms me, even after years. We moved into the kitchen together, side by side, moving around each other with an ease we'd earned. A couple of months ago, this same routine had been filled with clumsy bumps, irritation over who forgot to buy milk or who left dishes undone. Now, it was second nature. I toasted bagels a little too long, she smeared cream cheese too generously, and we laughed about both. Over breakfast, she looked at me with eyes that held a kind of quiet wonder. She said, "I love these mornings more than anything, more than the wedding, more than the dress, the music, all of it. This feels real." I reached across the table, took her hand in mine. "I feel the same," The wedding was. For everyone else, this is for us. That afternoon, we wandered the city, retracing our steps through places that had shaped us. The corner cafe where I first asked her out, clumsy and nervous. The bookstore where we once sat on the floor reading poetry to each other because we couldn't afford the hardcovers. The tiny park where we had spent an entire summer afternoon talking, watching kids chase each other across the grass. We ended up back at that same park, on the same bench, years later. The sunlight filtered through the trees, a warm mosaic across our hands as they intertwined. Emily leaned against me, whispering, "Do you remember?" I smiled. "I do. I remember everything, and I know that every step since then has been worth it." The truth hit me then: love isn't made in the big, cinematic gestures. It's not the grand vacations, the perfectly posed photos, or even the milestones everyone expects you to celebrate. It's the ordinary persistence. It's the late-night takeout dinners when you're too tired to cook. It's the arguments that cool into apologies whispered at 2 a.m. It's choosing each other again and again, even when it's easier not to. By evening, we were home, standing in the kitchen, cooking together. Garlic, rosemary, and butter filled the air. She told me a funny story about a co-worker. I countered with something ridiculous from my own office. We laughed so hard we had to stop stirring the sauce. And in that laughter, I realized that joy had snuck into our marriage, not in grand declarations, but in the cracks of the everyday. After dinner, we carried our plates out to the balcony. The city below glittered with its endless energy, but up here, it was just us. She rested her head against my shoulder, and we watched in silence as taxis rushed down avenues and windows lit up one by one. "Do you think we'll always be like this?" she asked suddenly, her voice small but steady. I squeezed her hand. "I think we'll always have to work at it, but if we keep listening, forgiving, and believing, I think we'll be even better than this." She lifted her head just enough to meet my eyes. "Our love isn't perfect, but it's ours, and that makes it perfect enough." Later that night, before bed, we pulled out our marriage journaler, small, leather-bound notebook we'd promised to fill together. Flipping through the pages, we found messy handwriting, doodles, stories of frustration, little victories, and hopes for the future. It wasn't neat, but it was honest. Emily picked up the pen and wrote, "Every day is a chance to love each other more." I took the pen after her and added, "And I promise never to take any of it for granted." We closed the journal, placed it on the nightstand, and turned off the lights. Lying there in the quiet, her fingers tangled with mine, I felt the rhythm of her breathing, the warmth of her body beside me. There was no need for words. Silence itself had become our language. But the story didn't end there. The next weekend, we returned to the street where we had first met. The golden light of sunset wrapped the old buildings in warmth. Emily squeezed my hand, and I thought about how far we had come, not just in years, but in resilience, in patience, in learning. Every misunderstanding we'd fought through, every tear, every laugh, hit, had all led us here. "Alex," she said softly, "we've made it through so much, and now I know we're stronger because of it." I nodded, too choked up to speak. The silence between us was full, not empty. Full of trust, full of peace. That night, back home, we crawled into bed. The city hummed outside, but in our room it was just us, breathing together. Emily whispered one last thing before sleep carried her away. "Every day is a new chance. Every day I'll keep choosing you. And I whispered back, holding her closer, and I'll keep choosing you. As I closed my eyes, I realized marriage isn't about a finish line. It's about the journey, about showing up, about building something day by day. Our story hadn't ended with the vows. It hadn't ended with the fights we survived or the peace we found. It was just beginning.